This is the May novice meeting for the Houston Astronomical Society. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Chris Morisette. I'm the novice chair for the novice program here at the Astronomical Society. And I think we've got a really fun presentation for tonight. I like to do at least one, new material presentation or meeting presentation, if you will, a year. I think this year I'll probably be doing 2 or 3, so that's a good thing. But tonight we're going to talk about planetarium applications. And so the agenda for tonight is going to be as such. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about and showing slides about planetarium applications. We'll talk a little bit about what they are. We'll talk about some planetary apps that are available. But then we'll really dig in and do what I hope to be a fun demonstration using Stellarium. And so we're going to go through and use Stellarium and go through the various aspects and features of it, mainly to kind of help you understand how these tools can help you out, either planning a session or being out in the field with an application on your phone. I'll also show a couple of other applications that I use by mirroring my phone to the computer. So this is going to be kind of stretching the bounds of my technical capabilities. I'll finish up with some slides to show you some quote unquote detective work that you can perform while using a planetary app. And then we'll stop for questions. And if you do have any questions, please put those in the chat while we're going through the presentation. And then I'll come back to those and we can take a look at them. And then I'll finish up with announcements. We've got tomorrow's presentation, we've got SIG meetings, and then I wanted to say a word or two about the Novice Lab. Okay, so we got a pretty full and hopefully fun evening tonight. So you probably have this on your phone already or have been exposed to it, but just for those that are brand new to astronomy, I wanted to start out really at ground zero here. So planetarium applications are programs designed to simulate the night sky and provide a virtual representation of celestial objects such as stars, planets, constellation, and other astronomical phenomena like meteor showers, eclipses, things like that. They're widely used by, planetarium applications are widely used by astronomers, educators, and enthusiasts to explore the universe, plan stargazing sessions, or visualize celestial events. The key features include the following. They've got interactive sky simulation, so you can pick your location, your time, and you can play around with the night sky to see what it would have looked like 1,000 years ago, say, or 800 years ago when the Crab Nebula came onto the scene, or what it's going to look like going forward for maybe the next eclipse that you might be able to attend. These planetarium apps can also give you some tools to help you look for and track upcoming events like eclipses, meteor showers, and conjunctions. You can integrate these applications with your telescope. So if you've got a telescope with a go-to mount and you have a laptop with, say, Stellarium on it, you can link your laptop to your telescope, and then instead of using the hand controller that comes with the mount, you can use Stellarium to tell the telescope which object you want to go to. So you're using the commands from the software as opposed to from a handheld device. Sky map and navigation. These apps can provide interactive star charts or sky maps to help users navigate the night sky. Educational content. If you've ever participated in an outreach event, you'll know how handy these applications can be, because when you focus your telescope on an object in the night sky, it's always nice to have a ready reference there to help people that are attending the outreach, to understand exactly what you're looking at. So these apps they include a lot of information to help us understand the universe. And again, they can be customized. You can adjust the location and the time of day, like I'd mentioned earlier. And then you can also put on the level of detail that you want for various objects, labeling of deep sky objects, putting in various grids on the map itself. So there's just a lot of neat things you can do with a planetarium application. So there are a myriad of planetarium apps available. I've got 3 listed here that I routinely use. I was thinking about originally putting together kind of a matrix to kind of help you understand, what kind of functionality you can get for what cost. And rather than go that route, I really wanted to focus on, what these apps can do for you. So I thought I'd just keep it simple here. I use this one app called Sky Guide. It's the first thing that I got introduced to when I got interested in astronomy. And I use it primarily to just find objects, generally find where objects are in the night sky. Sky Safari, I use that one probably the most, and this is also on my phone. I use it for planning. I'll use it for outreach because it has some great information about various objects, and then I use it for detective work, and I'll show you an example of that later, as what I mean by detective work. Stellarium is the one application that I can find and use on my desktop. So I've been using it for educational purposes, and then I've used it also to control my own telescope and that telescopes that we operate during outreach events. So functionality and cost, you can get pretty much, it's kind of a general broad statement, but the functionality that I outlined on the previous 2 slides, you could pretty much get that functionality with just about any of these applications. It's just a matter of what you want to pay for. So, for example, Sky Guide, I bought the intro subscription, and actually, in that case, I think it was like a $3 or $5 one-time fee, and that's what I just use it for navigation, and that suits my needs just fine. Sky Safari, I did upgrade and get like what they call the Pro version, which is like $25, and it gives me all of the information that I feel I need. Stellarium is actually a good deal. It's free for the most part, and it does a lot of neat things. You can get it on your phone, although I use it on my desktop, and that's basically what kind of functionality and cost I personally invested in planetary apps. I you know I'd say if you're interested in finding out more, doing your own homework and then figuring out what you can afford is probably your best bet. Obviously, if you've got questions, I'm certain that people in HAS would be more than happy to help you out if you threw out a question, email to the group. So I'd leave it to you to go figure out exactly what application and what functionality meets your needs and your budget. Okay, so now we'll get into the fun part. We'll talk about, we'll go in and do a demonstration of Stellarium. Before we do, I just got a couple of quick slides. Number one, what we're going to be seeing and what this planetarium app is going to be providing to us is really the celestial sphere. It's kind of laid out flat, so it's not like you see in this diagram, but that's essentially what we're going to be looking at. And you recognize this from the quarterly sky tours that we take. So that is just kind of a reminder there. I thought I'd throw this in as well to just kind of give you an idea. You'll hear this term Bortle, and this is approximately, what Bortle ratings mean. You'll see Bortle ratings in Stellarium. So I wanted to provide this. We'll be looking at a couple of different areas here, Fort Davis and Atascocita, which is up near where I live. And then you can see that over here, for example, Bortle 6, which is the Atascocita area, says that we can see stars that are about 4 to 4.5 magnitude level stars. For Bortle 2, the magnitudes go up, and what that means is that the brightness of the star is actually lower. So the way you would read this chart is you would say, well, at a Bortle 2 location, I can see many more stars because the small, the limit of the stars I can see is actually a lot dimmer than what I see here in a suburb of Houston. So we'll go through some settings, coordinate systems, and changing the night sky. I've got my cheat sheet over here, so if I'm looking away, that's why. And with that, now comes the fun part. I practiced this with my son, and we made it work. So keep our fingers crossed. And one thing about Stellarium on my computer, there are periods of time where it kind of flickers in and out. So if you see that, that's just really kind of a special feature or function or defect, if you will, with my own computer. So can you all see this beautiful pastoral landscape up on your screen? Is that visible?
Very visible.
Yes, correct?
Yes, you see it, yes.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so here is where we're at. I'm just going to show you some menus here that appear. So if I move my cursor over here to the left, I've got these this menu bar over here, and we'll be going through some of these items here, namely the location window, the time date window, and the sky and viewing options. Down at the bottom is another menu that you can it's kind of a quick link to go ahead and turn on and off things like the grid up in the sky, the atmosphere, the horizon, all that kind of neat stuff. You can turn on and off meteor showers, and then you've got the clock right over here that we'll use to simulate the motion of the night sky. Okay, so what I'm going to first do is I'm going to go to our location, and up here what I'm going to do is since I'm currently up here in the Kingwood-Humble area, I'm going to go put in Atascocita, go CETA, and you'll see that it shows up, which is kind of nice. And when I do that, I don't know if you saw it over here, but the latitude and longitude of my location showed up as well as my elevation. So that's kind of a neat feature here. Let's close. So now we've set our location. And what I want to come over here and do is I'm going to do one thing. We're currently at about 7:15 and it's still kind of light out. So I'm going to come over here and change the hour, and we're going to make it about 9 o'clock. 9:15. So we got some darkness out here in our night sky. And now what I want to come over here and do is come over here to the sky and viewing options window. Now there are a lot of things on this window, and it's kind of busy. But what I'm going to do is focus in on some key things. And the one key thing I want to draw your attention to is the light pollution. What you can do, and what you probably should do, is actually come up here, and there's a setting that says automatic from locations database. So if I do that, what it has done for me is it's moved this bar right here, and as you can see, it says Bortle Class 6, which was what we had for Atascocita. Okay, if I didn't do that automatically, I would have to move it on my own to the Bortle class that I want. So let's say, for example, I wanted to see what it was like in Fort Davis. And I will go back to the location window here in a second, but I just wanted to go down to Bortle Class 2. let's do this real quick. Let's go back up to Bortle class 6 and just take a look at what that night sky looks like. So you can kind of see it here, and you can kind of see the stars that would be out and about in this suburb that we've got up here in Atascocita. But let's instead do this. Let's move that back down to Bortle class 2. And when I close this window, you'll notice that you can see a lot more stars. And you'll notice over here on the right-hand side, we're also able to begin to see the Milky Way here. So that is a really key feature that you want to pay attention to when you're changing your locations. Let's go back up here, and rather than do this like we did, I'm going to go to McDonald Observatory, and there it is. And I'm going to double click that, and you'll notice that all of a sudden my longitude has changed dramatically because I'm about 600 miles west of Kingwood. So that has been a change. And then let's come back over here and take a look at this. And we should see in this case that I'm going to go ahead and put it on automatic, and then I'll go back to manual. And then this should be down at Bortle class. Well, it actually says Bortle class 1 for the McDonald Observatory, which is fine. Let's just make it Bortle class 2, though. That's kind of the official rating, I think, out there. So I'm going to just change that. And now we're looking at the sky as though we were out at the McDonald Observatory. Okay. Over here, so we're going to come back here and look at some more labeling that's in this dialog box. But for right now, what I want to do is I want to come down to this shortcut menu down here. Now, what I can do here as a shortcut is I can do some really neat things. So it says here that I can put in the lines of our constellations. So if I click on that, all of a sudden, and I'm going to kind of collapse that a little bit, I'm able to see the lines of our various constellations. Now, if you're familiar with the night sky, you'll notice that here's Gemini, here's Cancer, here's Leo, here's Virgo. I know that Arcturus is in Bootes. You know, here's Sirius down in Canis Major. That's great if you've been around the hobby for a while, but let's say we haven't. So what we want to do is we want to click this button here, and when we do, we put up the labels for the various constellations. So that's a neat thing. So now we've got the labels, which is kind of fun. And then also, if you're trying to reinforce and remember the shapes of the constellations, and to kind of get the shapes and connect it to some kind of a real life object or mystical object, then you can do this. You can put the mythical representation of the various constellations that we have out here in the sky that we're looking at. Excuse me, just one second. Grab a little water. So now we see, for example, Leo. And of course, this is Leo the lion. So that's the mythical creature that's associated with the constellation Leo. We see Gemini, the twins. We over here can see Taurus the bull, Orion the hunter, so on and so forth. So it's just another tool to kind of help you understand the constellations, get the hang of what the shape of the constellations are, and use the mythical characters that are associated with each constellation. So we'll turn that off for right now and just kind of get a cleaner view of the night sky. And now what we can do down here, moving along our easy menu, or click, what was the term I used earlier? I can't remember. Just kind of our convenience menu down here, we can actually put on a couple of the grids that are associated with astronomy. So let's start out with the azimuthal grid. And this is the grid that is kind of like the old surveyor out in the field. He goes 10 degrees up, 20 degrees up from the horizon. He'll go left and right in order to go in various directions to sight in some kind of project that he may be involved in. So what I'm going to do here is I'm gonna take my finger on the screen here. I'm going to rotate this. And you can do this too with a mouse or whatever. This is kind of easier for me. I rehearsed it this way. But now what we can do is we can begin to see what the night sky looks like looking north. And here what you'll see is a couple of interesting things. So one is if I go if I go three grid marks up, each one being 10 degrees, I get up to about 30 degrees, and lo and behold, and I'm going to click on that, I get the star Polaris. And so, as we've said and talked about in each of the quarterly meetings, Polaris will appear to be at a elevation that is equal to the latitude at which we are standing at on our terrestrial coordinates on Earth. So we're out in Fort Davis. Fort Davis is at 30 degrees. It's roughly where we are here in Houston, and that's where we'd expect to see Ursa Major. Now you'll notice over here when I clicked on that object, I got a whole bunch of information over here to the left, and you'll see things that are moving quite vigorously, such as the alt-azimuth. They're not moving as vigorously, but if you focus your attention on alt-azimuth here, you can see the numbers changing. Up here on right ascension and declination, we don't see any change. And the reason that we don't see any change there is because those two coordinates are kind of a fixed coordinate on the celestial sphere, and as a consequence, they don't change. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of that information that we saw over here, and now what I want to do is I want to put up the I'm going to take this azimuthal grid off, and now we'll put up the equatorial grid. And lo and behold, we'll see that we're looking north, so we're looking at Polaris, and that is residing on the north celestial pole. So that's kind of where we're at now. And let's do this. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to speed up the night sky, and as you can see, we'll see that circumpolar rotation. Polaris is moving a little bit in its path around the celestial North Pole, but for the all intents and purposes, it's not moving. You can see all these other stars that are moving. Anything that is above or that is 30 degrees or less in the night, or 30 degrees down to our horizon, we can see. And now, as you'll notice, we begin to come up into daylight here. So let me just continue on the, and then here's sunrise, and the rooster should be crowing, and now we're out of our night sky. So that just kind of gives you that view of how you can model the rotation of the celestial sphere, the circumpolar nature that you see around Polaris. And I just wanted to kind of demonstrate that to kind of show you how this model, how this application can really bring to life the things that we've talked about in the quarterly meetings. Okay, so I'm going to now go up a day, or not a day, but an hour. So now it's 10 o'clock, and we're looking north. I'm going to go back south. So I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to turn us back towards the south. And if you remember, so today is the first day in May. And if you remember from the sky tour of the spring sky, this is about what we would see. Actually, let me do this. If I remember right on sky maps really, the earlier sky maps show us what the night sky would look like in the early part of May at 9 o'clock. So that's what we're looking at right here. Okay, so let's take this off. And again, what we're looking at here is a snapshot of the night sky at 9 o'clock for tonight. And that's kind of what we get during those quarterly presentations is we get a static picture of the night sky. So what's fun to do, and I'm going to go ahead and do that here. I'm going to repeat what I just did, and I'm going to have this thing rotate throughout the evening. So you'll notice that as the night progresses, our sky does change. And we're going to let it go into the wee hours of the morning. And I think I'm going to go to about, say, 3 o'clock here. Well, I'm at 2 o'clock now. And you'll see that the Milky Way has begun to come up here on the screen. So the cool thing about this is, again, we have those static shots that we look at quarterly. Now we can really begin to see what's happening. And what we've discovered here, or that what we've noticed, is that if we stay up late enough, we're actually beginning to see what we would begin to see in quote unquote prime time, or 9 o'clock at night during the summer. So you'll see here that we've got the teapot, we've got Altair up here, we've got Scorpius. So these are familiar objects to us, familiar constellations, familiar asterisms for the summertime. But if we stayed up late enough tonight and we had a clear night, we could begin to see what we would be seeing in the summertime. So that's kind of fun to think about. And I will come back to that here in a minute. Let me go back to our current time, and I can do that like so. And again, because it's, I'm going to just bump up the nighttime here a little bit more so we can see the darkness here. One other thing, so I'm going to show you a few more features, and then I'm going to show you a little bit about coordinate systems here. So here is a thing we can do with the ground. So we can remove the ground, and what that's kind of neat for is it allows us to see a lot of things that we would only see if we were farther south in the southern hemisphere. So that's kind of interesting to do. Another thing you can do is you can remove the atmosphere. And what this does is the way I like to think about it is it really gives us kind of the optimum seeing conditions that we could possibly expect to see. So if you're looking for more detail, you can toggle this on and off, and that's a nice feature to do. And I think I'll just leave it off for the time being. Here are the cardinal points: north, south, east, west. Here are some deep sky objects that we can turn on and identify. So you can see up here the Beehive cluster M44 up here on the screen. Kind of had a running joke on Saturday night at the Novice Lab because that was one of the few things that we could find with all the clouds in the area. But you can do that, which is nice. You can turn on and off the planets. Meteor showers. I don't see any meteor showers in our view here, but we'll see some here in a second. And so these are the things that you can do to change your labeling. Okay, so just a little bit about that toolbar down here that really gives you quick access to a lot of things. Now I do want to show you some coordinate systems that are handy to put up here. So we looked at this earlier when we were looking at our light pollution. And what we can do is we can come over here, and you'll see this pretty busy menu that allows us to select a bunch of things that we could add to our chart. And I'm just going to point out a few here. I want to look at we talk a lot about the ecliptic, and so I think that's pretty important. So I'm going to show the ecliptic, and then I'm also going to show the meridian, which is kind of the midpoint around which a telescope will need to flip when an object is moved past this imaginary line in the sky. And then we'll also click zenith, and that will be the point at which sits right overhead. And here it is right here. Okay, so now if I close my chart up and I kind of zoom in a little bit, I can see the meridian, which is this green line. And if I collapse it up a little bit more, I can see the zenith right here. And then this red line is the ecliptic. So if I want to watch, and we do have some planets out there, so let's take a look at that. So we've got Jupiter and Mars, and you can see how they reside on the ecliptic. And let's just, for fun, let's just kind of watch them move. And I'm just going to turn this on a little bit, but there they go, and they're on the ecliptic, and they'll stay right in that neighborhood. Actually, that's not a very good demonstration, because they're really not moving relative to the ecliptic. You need several days and months for that to occur. What I really only demonstrated there was the rotation of the Earth. So in any event, but that's just kind of, I think you get the idea. That's where we're at with where the planets, where we're going to find the planets up there in the night sky. And this is a great tool in order to allow you to do that. Let's do one more thing here. We're going to blow up a deep sky object, and I'm going to again go back here, and I'm going to turn on those DSO labels. There it is. And then again, just for the sake of where we're at, if I can do this, here is the beehive cluster, and I'm going to just kind of zoom in on that sucker. And then if I click on that, I don't know if that brought up the beehive cluster or not. Let me see if I can. Let me blow it up a little bit more. I think there's like a little button here somewhere that I can actually click on. And I can't, yeah, let me do another one here. Bear with me. I'm going to find Orion. Let's go up to Orion and look at the Orion Nebula. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? The stars kind of get in the way down here, so I'm going to turn off the stars. And I would do that by going over here and then going up to here, and then I'm going to click that off. And so the stars disappear, and it just kind of simplifies our screen. And then there's the Orion Nebula. Let me see if I click on that. And there you have it on the left-hand side, the little data panel. And that gives you, again, information about the Orion Nebula. So my point in all this is that you can zoom in on deep sky objects, get more information, things like that. Although I must tell you that my familiarity with Stellarium is not as extensive as it is with Sky Safari. So I know exactly how to get more information, more descriptive information from Sky Safari, but not so much with Stellarium. I'm sure there's a way to get more of a verbal description. I just don't have that expertise at the moment. Okay, so let's turn off that. And now we'll go back and turn our stars back on, because we're going to want to take a look at those. So another thing that I wanted to point out is the we use the signposts to find our way around the night sky, and you can utilize Stellarium or any other app for that same purpose. So, you know, our signpost of the season right now is the Big Dipper. And here we can go and do a number of things. We can take these middle two stars and go down to Regulus. We can go up this way and find Polaris. And then if we go off of the handle, we can arc to Arcturus and then go down to Spica. So we can use this model just like we have used the signposts in the static version, they're still there for us to use and to take advantage of. So I just wanted to say a few words about that. Let's do some changing of the night sky. So we saw how the night sky kind of changed during the course of the evening. Let's do a little bit about how the night sky changes over the course of the seasons. So here's our 9 o'clock hour, really almost closer to 10 o'clock. And then here's the month. We've been playing with the hours and the minutes. So let's just go ahead and click on the month. So this is what will look like next week. You'll notice that Virgo and Leo are farther up in the sky. As we get into July, we're beginning to see more of the things that we saw really early in the morning, that we'd see really early in the morning today and tomorrow morning. But now we're beginning to see Libra. We're beginning to see the beginnings of the the beginnings of the Milky Way, where we're able to look back towards the center of the Milky Way. And again, this is just kind of a nice tool to kind of say to yourself, well, what's happening out there as the Earth is making its rotation around the sun. And this is what's happening. We're seeing new constellations. Again, at that 9 o'clock hour, that's what we're seeing. So now we're into October. We're now into November. And as we get into December, we begin to see Orion. And Orion will soon be in primetime viewing during February. So that's a great way to, again, use the model to kind of get an understanding of what the seasons look like and how the night sky changes during the season. Now, I wanted to show you just one story that I had that I always I get a kick out of, and I probably told you this before, but bear with me, I'm getting old. So back on, I want to say it was, I'm going to crank this up to August. We were doing some remodeling here at the house, and I had to get up really early in the morning. So I had to take care of some things before the contractors came. So I had my cup of coffee and I went out on the driveway, and I was facing south, and I saw these 3 bright stars in a row, and I thought, what in the heck is that? I've never seen that before. So I got my handheld app and went out there, and lo and behold, it was Orion. And I was kind of stunned. I was taken aback a little bit. I said, well, Orion's a winter constellation. What's happening here? Well, it's so early in the morning that Orion's beginning to make its presence known in the summertime. So it kind of was fun to watch. I was kind of intrigued by it. And then as the morning came and the sunlight began to appear, Orion disappeared. And then that's kind of, that aha moment, Orion's still up there, right? It's just the sun's blotting it out. So anyway, it gave me an appreciation for the night sky and the seasons and what you can see out there if you stay up late enough or get up early enough. All right, so I'm going to do this. Let me see. Where are we at today? I'm going to go back to let's do February, and I'm going to move this up to about 10 o'clock. Okay, so here's February in Fort Davis, Texas. And what another cool thing you can do here is you can really play around with the locations to kind of get an idea of what the night sky may look like in very different parts of the world. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take us down to Buenos Aires, which is about a little bit farther south than our current latitude is north, but it is about 34 degrees and we're at 30. So let's take a look. So again, I'm And what I'm going to do, I'm going to back this off a couple hours because they're 2 hours ahead of us. So as I'm looking south, I'm seeing a whole new ball game. I'm not seeing Orion. I'm not seeing anything. I'm seeing a bunch of constellations and things that are brand new and really foreign. But if I turn 180 degrees, which I will, and I'm facing north, look at what I'm seeing. There's Orion, but he's turned upside down. And again, that's because I'm in the southern hemisphere now and I'm looking at things from an entirely different perspective. So here's Betelgeuse, here's Rigel, and here's the Great Orion Nebula, and it's all 180 degrees from where we're at right now. So again, this is a great tool to kind of understand not only what we can both see, north and south hemispheres can see as a common set of objects, but also get an understanding of what's out there. And if you ever make a trip down to Australia or South Africa or South America, you can use a tool like this to prepare and get an understanding of what you want to look for. So that's kind of fun. You can also use this tool. Let's go back to, I'm going to change our location, and we're going to go back to San Antonio, and I'm going to try and pull up the recent eclipse. So we'll go to San Antone. There we go. And we're going to go back in time. That was on last year on the 8th of April. And I'm going to go back here to the 8th. And then this was, let's go back earlier in the day. And let's kind of scrunch our sun down. And you'll notice that there's a little dot up here in front of the sun where it's about 10 o'clock in the morning. So now I'm going to, when I do that, it moves. I'm just going to click it again here. And you'll notice that as we get closer out into the day, it's actually dimming. Now, unfortunately, this view that I have here isn't the best, but it gives you the kind of the ideas or the tools that you could use in order to simulate an eclipse and where it would be depending on the location that you're at. So that's what I had there for my Stellarium demonstration. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you those other two applications that I told you I used earlier. So this is going to be interesting. I'm going to mirror my, let's see, what am I doing here? No device is connected. Oh, here we go. All right, so now it's going to come up with a code 8203. And then when I do that, you should see my phone, which hopefully you do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up that first one, Sky Guide. That was the tool that I told you I used in order to find objects. So right now, let me go down here, and I'm going to just go ahead and pull up Pleiades. And now you'll see that arrow that's on the screen. As I move my phone in the direction of that arrow, you'll see that I eventually come to Pleiades. So that's how I use this tool. It just, if I'm standing over here, over to the north, and I'm looking for Pleiades, well, I can just go right here, and lo and behold, there it is. And I can put in just about, any object that I care to. But that's just a quick little demonstration on how I use Sky Guide. And it's not very fancy, but I thought it would be kind of informative. And then here's what I have with with Sky Safari, and that's just kind of the typical display. Well, let me show you where Sky Safari really comes into its own. You'll see here on your screen this section called Pleiades, and I've got all kinds of information about it. I've got a nice verbal text about it, write up about it. I've got some nice pictures. I've got name and mythology information. I've got really all of the information that I could possibly want in order to talk to the public about Pleiades right here in my hand. And I can do this with just about any object that you can imagine. If I hit those two arrows, then that will move it over to the map. And of course, here I'm down below the horizon. So let's do one that's above the horizon. We'll do, again, the beehive cluster. And there it goes. It goes up here. And again, if I click on the little info box, I get all the information that I'd want here. And then I can go over to this panel here and get a lot of that data that we saw on Stellarium. Okay, so again, what app you choose, what this functionality, and what kind of costs you want to incur. That's really kind of where you need to kind of think about what you want to buy. But those are the things that I use, and they're really handy. Okay, so let's bring this bad boy home. Just wanted to finish up with this detective work example, and this is again where I really rely on Sky Safari. So I took this picture down in New Zealand, and I know you're probably saying to yourself, man, when are we going to stop hearing about New Zealand from this guy? But I want to get as much mileage out of these pictures as I can, because it was a long trip. So anyway, before I left, a day or two before I left, I took this picture with my iPhone out on the balcony of a hotel I was staying at in Queenstown. And I was hoping to get the Southern Cross. I just kind of wanted it for posterity. So I took it and I thought I had it, but then everything else, I got a day of hiking and then I got a pack for the trip home, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't really look at this again until I got home. So I was home waxing nostalgic about my trip. And I thought, well, gee, I had that photo on my phone. Let's see how I did. So using Sky Safari, which I took a screenshot over here on the right, I was able to determine that, yes, indeed, I did get the Southern Cross. I dialed in the latitude, longitude, the direction I was pointing, all of that good stuff, the date, all that good stuff, the time of day. It was early in the morning, and I was able to look at my picture, compare it to Sky Safari, and yay, I got the Southern Cross. And not only that, I got the pointers. So that was a real touchdown for Chris. Now, I began to look at this screenshot of Sky Safari, and I noticed this little thing right here. I thought, well, that looks kind of like something. And gee, I think I've got it right here too. So maybe I took a picture of something that would be worth documenting. And again, I was able to determine that the Carina Nebula was in fact an object that I had captured. So that was cool. This is one of the nebula that the James Webb Telescope had been photographing. And I thought, well, how cool is that? And then again, while I was looking at this thing, I thought, well, there's something weird over here. And I've kind of got something that looks familiar or similar. So what the heck could that be? And again, it was the Large Magellanic Cloud. And I thought, how cool is that? So that is just a quick, easy example of, how you can use pictures that you take with your phone or a DSLR camera. Then when you're out in the field, you can kind of bring those pictures back and use these apps to really help you understand, what it is you captured when you were out in the field. So kind of fun. Now, with that, I'm done with the portion of the evening regarding applications, planetarium applications, and what I should do now is go to the chat and see what we've got. James Howell, sorry, I have neither microphone or camera on this computer. Okay. Sorry to hear about that. Bill, you asked what was the app used to find the Pleiades? That app was called Sky Guide.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to try it out.
Yeah, it's a fun little app, easy to use. Okay. So those were all the questions in the chat. If anybody has any questions and wants to come off of mute, feel free, and I can just take any questions that you may have or thought of during the presentation.
Chris, this is Chris Schubert. A quick question. Has anybody tried out or any experience with Sky View? I've been told that it's a nice app that you can use. And if you're kind of trying to learn constellations, you can point it up where you're looking, and it will then kind of read the stars at that moment, and then come in and do a little drawing for you, point-to-point drawing, and tell you what you're looking at.
Okay.
I don't have any experience with it.
I do not. Does anybody on the call have any experience with Sky View? So I think the answer to that question is no, but I will, just out of intellectual curiosity, take a look at that tomorrow, Chris, and maybe we could swap some emails on that. But I haven't heard of it. But like I said, there are just a plethora of applications out there, so wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
Good. Well, let's do that. Thanks.
Bet.
Actually, just to let you know, I use Skyview. This is Eric Hilgendorf. It's nice because you point it up to the sky that you're looking at, and if you look as if you're looking through the phone, it draws a little circle that is sort of the eye hole, essentially, that you're looking through. And when you put the circle on the object, the star, it tells you what star you're looking at. And it will also allow you to put in an object, and it'll show you where to point your phone to find it. So I think it's a fairly simple app, and it works fairly well. And I've used it at some of the star parties, essentially at like Kleb Woods, where you all do some outreach. And it seems to work really well, especially to help some others find things that wouldn't have otherwise.
Okay.
Well, that's a good report. Thank you.
I agree with that, in that the sky view will also show you like your ground. So in other words, if you got trees and you need to find something, it'll show you the trees as you move your phone up. You can see that. So if you're trying to tell somebody where is something, you can say, hey, come look here. Here's the tree, and there's that object right up there. So I like it for that purpose.
Real good. So what you just described, I'll bet, given a few minutes, I could probably do that as well with Sky Guide. But again, I'm not familiar with Skyview, so I need to check that out. But you can do a lot with really any of these applications. They've got a lot of functionality in them.
True.
Any other questions about planetarium applications? Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and bring this presentation home. So here's some announcements. I just wanted to say a couple of words about Novice Labs. We had a Novice Lab out on Saturday night. Conditions were cloudy. We did get a few keyholes here and there, but it certainly wasn't what we had hoped for. But it was fun to get out there, and we found a number of really neat objects out there. So I'm going to be teeing up another series of labs between for the May, June, July timeframe. And what these labs are typically, they're pretty simple. They're really just kind of taking that quarterly presentation that I do and actually putting it into practice out in the field. So we'll go over the celestial sphere, have a tour of the night sky, talk about our signposts, and then we'll have practice finding featured objects. So even though it was cloudy, we were able to find the Beehive cluster, which was a lot of fun. We did eventually find a globular cluster, M3, and was able to find that and view it in a pair of binoculars. And then one of the participants found 2 of the 3 galaxies in the Leo triplet, and man, that was a thrill. So even though conditions were suboptimal, we still were able to find some objects, and we had a lot of fun. We do this at the HAS dark site, so if you want to participate, you want to make sure you do your dark site training. And how you join is by I'm going to be sending out an email to the HAS email distribution, and I'll kind of introduce the topic, and then at the end of that, we'll ask you for some information. So if you're interested, all you have to do is send the requested information back to me. I'll put you on the list, and then I'll continue to dialogue with you regarding the details and timing and all that good stuff. So look for that. I'm hoping to do a lot more of these this year. Had a lot of fun. Saturday, I'm really energized about it. So I just wanted to put in a plug for that. I wanted to also let you know that we have our special interest group meetings for May that are coming up. These happen on each Wednesday, the 7th, the 14th, and the 21st.
Excuse me, can I interrupt a second?
Yeah.
Astrophotography has been moved to the 28th.
It has. Okay.
Yes.
Why is that? Do we know?
I don't know, but when these lists were put out, I remember Matt saying something about it. It should be the 28th, not the 21st. That's all I know.
All right. Well, good catch. I asked Stephen about this. He said just default to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Wednesday, or the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Wednesday of each month, which is what I did, but I should have read his email. In any event, you can get all the details for the SIG meetings in this email that comes out by Stephen Jones. And again, please note the change here from the 21st to the 28th. And thanks for pointing that out, Steve. Appreciate that. And then finally, be sure to tune in for tomorrow night's general meeting. We're going to have a presentation regarding the HAS dark site development 1979 to the present. And that will be presented by our own Steve Goldberg. So please tune in for that. That'll be kind of an interesting reading of history from our dark site, which is a great resource. If you haven't been out there, it's really a wonderful thing to behold. So I encourage you all to attend tomorrow. So that's all I've got for tonight. And if you've got, I'm going to kind of do my auctioneer thing. Any questions, comments, or concerns before we wrap up? Going once, going twice. Great. All right. Well, thanks for attending tonight, people. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you all tomorrow night.